We chat with WWE superstar The Undertaker as he gets ready to return to the ring this weekend.
Hi, I'm Ralphie Aversa, and here's what we're covering on Entertain This.
The Undertaker is one of the most enduring characters in wrestling history. The man who plays him, Mark Calaway, will return to the Squared Circle Sunday on WWE Survivor Series. 30 years to the date that Taker made his debut on the same pay-per-view. Calaway marked the anniversary with our Brian Truitt.
Well, first off, how are you and the family doing in these COVID times?
We're doing all right. No one, in my family has been, has got it yet. Very fortunate, very blessed there. Obviously I live in Texas, so, Texans feel like, I think most Texans feel like nothing can touch them. But we're doing same thing everybody else is doing, mask and social distancing when you can. And, hopefully, all this will come to an end soon enough and we can move on and get back to a normal life. This is not normal.
Right. Well, you're scheduled to be at this year's Survivor Series exactly 30 years to the day after The Undertaker's debut. How trippy, surreal, exciting is that for you?
It's really crazy. It's very humbling. I mean, you don't ever, I would have never imagined that I would have a 30-year career jumping from company to company or doing anything really. But to be with the WWE, WWF for 30 straight years, it's just mind blowing. Obviously I feel incredibly blessed that my fan base and, they've stayed interested in me for that long a time. It's going to be amazing to, in fact, on the exact date, it will be 30 years. I don't know. It's going to be kind of, I would never say emotional, but on the inside, I'm sure it's going to be a very unique night for sure.
Most wrestling fans remember that match in '90 with Ted DiBiase announcing your arrival and Roddy Piper saying, "Look at the size of that ham hock." As we watch Undertaker walking to the ring, describe what's going on in Mark Calaway's head at that moment.
Mark Calaway at that moment is so nervous that he can barely get one foot in front of the other. You have to think about, so I have this character, this brand new character, and I'm heading towards the ring. And in the ring, you've got the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. You got Bret Hart. You got Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Coco Beware. You've got all these top tier guys, and I'm about to go in there and basically toss them all around. Now, 1990, there's still a little bit of old school mentality left, and guys are, they weren't quite as friendly and open-armed about those kind of things as they are now. So, I'm just thinking to myself, like, go in there, don't hurt anybody, do what you're supposed to do, and and then we'll be off and running. But yeah, I was a nervous wreck, and trying to keep myself slow. Right, I was trying to keep that because I'd already knew in my head that this character was going to walk slow. But I'm so excited on the inside. I'm like, slow down, and I was moving slow, but in my head, I'm like, I want to get there and get started.
Yeah. A power walking Undertaker might not have made the best first impression for,
I don't think so. I don't think so.
What has it been like the last couple years, and especially this last year with The Last Ride, to really let the world see yourself after 3 decades and, after 3 decades, not really breaking character?
It has been, it's been more than challenging. It goes against everything that that's ingrained in me, even to this day. So there's certain times some people ask me a question in an interview, and I'll pause or I'll start to, because I'm thinking in my head, do I want to talk about that? Because I have that natural instinct to No, you don't get that, So it's been challenging opening up, and lifting the veil on the character, and because it's just, for 30 years it was just, to me, that was unheard of, and you just don't do it, and so that part has been challenging, and there's some days I will, I'm thinking, well, it's really cool, that I've kind of I've given people a peek on the inside, and then there's other days where I'm like, I don't know if I should have done this or not. It really, it's kind of the battle that I wage on a day-to-day basis.
Was there ever a time in that 30 years, maybe early on, where you reconsidered like the ultimate commitment to that person, and maybe just kind of breaking it a little bit for some reason, or were you just kind of like, this is what I'm going to do, this is how my career is going to go? Yeah,
no, I had no reservations at all. I knew that was the path, right or wrong. In my head, it was the right way to go, and I was committed to doing it that way. And I just, in my head, I could not. Today wouldn't be. I don't know that the character would be able to get over today, but it was just, there's no way that I can do this on TV, and I do this in the live events, and then give people anything different. It was just like, you have to live this thing. If you want people to stay invested in it, good, whether they like you, they hate you, you just want them invested. And I was committed to that, and it never hedged one day that was not the way that I was going to approach it.
Taker's character and look evolved so much over the years, from the Lord of Darkness to American Badass. Looking back, do you have a favorite period in terms of storytelling that you did in the ring, and just outside of the ring, and just with the whole show? Wow. There were so many. The first, all the way up until Undertaker versus Undertaker, I think a lot of those years was just investing. I think investing in the character and making it repetitive, and getting everybody on the same page of what that was. Obviously, the Undertaker versus Undertaker storyline was, that was like, whoa, that's different. Then I don't know, the era with, obviously with Mankind and Kane, those were really layered, really, thick. I mean, the Kane, the Kane storyline is 23 years ongoing. I mean, it never ends. Either we're bitter enemies, or we're partners, and that's the 23-year storyline. And obviously the storyline with Mankind was, these two kind of, one maniacal crazy man, and this dark entity kind of doing battle. And I enjoyed the American Badass, because it just gave me that little window there to show a different side, just a different side of what I could do. It kind of took the shackles off for a little bit, just took me take a breath of air, and then get back and refocus on being the Undertaker again. We got to talk a lot. I mean, that's what I think. I forgot about that era, and watching the Last Ride, I forgot about how much you talked during that. Yeah, I don't know. It would have been very difficult. Look at all the talkers that you had. You had Stone Cold, right? You had The Rock. You had Triple H, and you had Kurt Angle, and you had Eddie Guerrero, and all these guys that could just cut you up to ribbons if you couldn't talk. So that was fun for me, because, like I said, I had to keep everything close to the vest, and you didn't want to hear the Undertaker talk a lot of smack. You want to talk about the Undertaker. You wanted to hear him talking about taking your soul, and worms eating your rotting flesh, and all that. But so the American Badass kind of let me talk some of the trash that I talked backstage, for the whole time. So, that was fun. I rewatched the Boneyard match with AJ Styles, and that was such a cool mix of wrestling and horror movie. Was that ever a possibility for you to break into Hollywood, or would that have been too tough with the character?
Yeah, it was. I did this episode. Of it was called Poltergeist: The Legacy. It was a weekly show that they did. And fortunately, the character, and the reason why I did it, the character that I portrayed was not far off from The Undertaker. Mm-hmm. But doing that, it just kind of reiterated what I'd already thought. Like, I can't get away from this, or it's not gonna hold its value, right? Because I can't go out and just, a wild example. I can't be, the Lord of Darkness and then Kindergarten Cop. Yeah, it would have just, it would have been a train wreck, and I would have lost all my, my credibility, and the wrestling industry. That's what I cared about. That's what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I never had any aspirations of, kind of morphing my wrestling career into, into a movie career, or like Rock did. I think he's probably going to make it, but yeah,
he's going to be all right. Yeah,
I think he's going to be okay. But that was never my goal. My goal was to be at the top of the WWE and be responsible for putting, asses in seats and living this character and doing all that. But
I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a recent commercial I saw. I think it's from India that tracks a boy being fearful of you coming out of a coffin, watching you on TV, to him as a dad introducing Taker to his daughter. And I honestly did tear up a little bit. Can you fathom yet the deep impact you've had on generations at this point, or will that take some time to process?
No, because, and I've seen that commercial. It was very well done. It really is. It really is good. But there's so many. I can't tell you how many times now that I'm getting out and doing more personal appearances. Well, obviously pre-COVID, but doing appearances and things like that. The amount of people that come up and tell me their story, and thank me, but it's not like, hey, thanks for being here and thanks for signing this. It's like, no, thank you for, I was going through this. And the only thing that I had to look forward to was Monday nights and to see what, and you don't really think about that aspect of it. You think about going out and performing and being Undertaker or whatever your character is. And, that's it. And you go to the next week. But then you hear these people's testimonies of like, I can't tell you how many, I've had people tell me, I was on the verge of ending myself, and it's like, it really, you have to sit back, take a step back sometime and think about the effect that you have on people and how important you are to, it's so humbling when I hear people tell me their story. And, 9 times out of 10, they tear up and they're crying and they're trying to get this out because they only have a little bit of time, as they're moving through a line to get this. And, there's been more than once where I've just stopped the line and said, let's go ahead, man. Because obviously it meant so much to them. You deserve for me to hear that because, it really is. It's humbling to know how you can, your work and what you do can affect people that you a lot of times will never meet or never see.
Well, it's a character. It's not an instant gratification character because, he does his thing. He moves very slowly through the ring. He whoops ass and then he leaves. And, there's crowds and cheers and stuff like that. But it's not like Hulk Hogan where he's slapping the audience and everything. Right. It's you don't really probably know the impact for a while until it probably takes some time to figure out how much he meant to people.
Oh, absolutely. Because I don't hardly ever make eye contact. Mm-hmm. It's part of what I do, but I think there's a lot of people that identify with that. Like, if they felt like they've been bullied or what, they don't make eye contact with people, and they feel different.
Right.
And they look at me as being different in what I do. And then they put it together. And that's kind of how a lot of times they bond with that character, because my character is so different from every other character at the time. And it's just, it really is. I can't say it enough how humbling it is to hear these people's stories and how that you've pulled them through without even knowing it, how you've pulled them through such dark times in their lives.
What do you want your daughter to take from you in regards to your career and legacy as she gets older?
I would say I want her to understand the work ethic aspect of it, and integrity. You're only as good as your word, and you're only as good as the effort. I just my dad gave me a piece of advice early on in my life. My dad's passed now, but he goes, son, I want you to remember something. And this is way early on in like 91 or, so I'm still, I have no idea what's about to happen over the next 3 decades. But he goes, son, I always want you to remember, he goes, the toes you step on the way to the top are connected to the asses you're going to have to kiss on the way back down. Treat people the way you want to be treated and deal with them honestly. So that's the way I've conducted my career. I've always tried to treat, no matter where you're at on the card or whether you're in the crew or whatnot, I've always tried to treat people, as we're all the same. We're all in this together. And that's something that I want to convey to my daughter, is treat people respectfully, treat them how you want to be treated, and never be deterred by anything, because obviously I was told, when I was at WCW, that no one would ever pay money to see me wrestle. I could have taken that and went, okay, maybe I should pick up a basketball again or go back and get my degree. But I use that as fuel. So, I want to make sure that she understands that if you got a dream, you got to go for it, and you got to go all in for it. But work ethic and integrity and treating people the way you want to be treated, those are the things that I want to instill in her.
Well, that's where I first remember seeing you as part of the Skyscrapers with Danny Spivey. Right. I watched WCW or NWA back in the 80s. So that's where I first saw you. What, you mentioned that kind of people told you couldn't be anything at that point. But what was it about wrestling, about this industry? What was it about this thing that made you keep going and say, F you, this is what I'm going to do?
I love the business. I mean, I loved kayfabe. I just loved every aspect of it. Even the physicality of it, the demanding schedule of it, just the whole process of learning how to do it, and then getting booked in a company and realizing you don't know anything, and there's just so many different levels and layers to this business. That's why it takes us, so often guys have been around for years and years before it really clicks, and it's just, you just never know it all, but there's so much there to sink your teeth into. And I was just always, once I started training, I was always drawn to it. And the more I learned, the more there was to learn, and the more I wanted to learn. But it was just, it was in my heart and in my soul, like, this is what I was meant to do. Now, did I know that it was going to turn out the way no, I had no clue of that. But I knew I was doing what I wanted to do, and I was going to take it as far as I could take it. And I do. And at that point, I was like, I just don't agree with you guys. I'm sorry. I still had enough confidence. I mean, that was a blow, obviously, to my ego and everything, to where I thought I was at. I was like, oh, I'm going to ask for more money. They're going to give it to me. This is going to be, and I'm off and running. Look, we're going to give you the same money because we just don't feel like you could put asses in seats. Okay. Well, there's the proverbial writing on the wall. I know I'm not going to be here much longer, but, I still knew that there was a lot in me that needed to, that I could get out.
You mentioned in the final episode of Last Ride that you want to focus on changing the world outside the ring now. What do you think that will look like in the next 5 to 10 years?
Wow, who knows, man? These are such crazy times, with the whole political scene the way it is. It's just nuts. And I don't know that's my area that I'm even going to try to tackle. But there used to be a time where, regardless of what party you supported, you could at least have a conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you were on the right and I was on the left, we could have our differences. We could have a discussion, and we could talk like normal people about it. That seems to be completely gone now, and it's scary. For our society to not be able to communicate like that without being such hostilities. And I hope we don't go so far that we can't come back. And that's one of my big worries. But for me personally, I have just a strong connection with our vets and our law enforcement and people and kids. And special needs children, that's kind of where I think I'm going to send, we're going to, and Michelle is obviously her views are pretty close to mine on all that stuff. So, we're going to lend our hand to those causes and see, how we can use our platform to help where we can. And most likely, and to start with in those areas, and we'll see where that takes us.
We've watched you for so long on TV. What do you watch on TV?
I watch, mostly sports. I love boxing, obviously. I love MMA, college football. I need a new series. Like I loved Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Sons of Anarchy. What else did I watch? Oh, well, I guess what I watch now as far as TV is Yellowstone. I love Yellowstone, man. I can't wait for the, their season just stopped, but I really, I don't, I don't have like a bunch of TV shows that I just watch. I watch not as probably much as I should. I watch our product. I think I don't watch it as often because I put myself like, I should be there. But I'm a pretty tough audience, really, is to get me into different TV shows. That's why I think I stick to sports and stuff I know.
When you watch wrestling now, from home, can you sit back and watch it as a fan, or do you kind of like critique what people are doing? Can you step back enough away to enjoy it as like I would or anybody else would?
I can to a certain degree. Like I'm trying to think who. Just earlier this week, I was talking with Bruce Pritchard, and I was telling him how much I enjoyed the Roman Reigns Jey Uso story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was kind of an old school kind of story that it made sense, and especially if you are familiar with the Samoan legacy in our business and the heritage and all that of their family, it was just like, wow, this is good. This is really deep. This is deep stuff. It's Roman at his absolute best, and actually Jey too, because it took Jey to a different level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've been kind of the upbeat kind of, flashy new age Samoan wrestlers, but it kind of put a air of grit to his character, and it elevated him. So I really, that I enjoyed it as a fan. And there's certain guys that I watch that I just like, wow, I'm still, amazed with AJ Styles. I love watching AJ work. But a lot of times I catch myself going, oh man, why did they not do that? Or why did you do that? Why did you, I'm talking like they can hear me, right? I'm talking to the TV like they can hear me. Like, no, you don't know. That's stupid. No, I'm going to call you. I got to write that down. I'm going to call I don't, but it's not my place. When I'm in person and people ask me, then obviously I will critique them and give them, advice. And I think I owe that to the business to continue to do that. I did it all the time when I was around all the time, but now that I'm not around very often, I get it, very selectively, but it's hard to be just a straight fan, because I want everybody to succeed and to develop into, their potential. So I kind of like, oh man, don't do it. It didn't make sense. Don't do that. Why would you do that? You'd laugh. You would actually laugh if there was a camera watching me watch wrestling. It really, because I have these conversations and it's pretty amusing, I'm sure.
But you can still see your stamp on that product. I mean, with Bray Wyatt, I mean, he has the Fiend character and he has like kind of like the psycho Mr. Rogers part of it. And then he has the Fiend, but that's like from you. I mean, I feel like that's part of the thing you developed that he's kind of like taking the ball with and running
and evolving. Yeah, I love his character. I love it, but I get too nervous, right? Because sometimes they want to overproduce things, and he has such a good grasp of that character. I just get nervous. Like, don't just let it go. Just let it simmer. Don't try to, throw all the gasoline on that at one time. Yeah, he is like, he's the new age, dark side kind of guy. And he's doing a great job. He really is.
Would it have driven you nuts to perform now where, kind of because of COVID, they have like, the screens the Thunderdome screens everywhere. They don't really have that many people actually in the stadium or the arena. Would that drive you nuts to perform in front of that, or would you just kind of power through it?
I would end up eventually powering through it, I would have guessed. But so, COVID had just kind of started when we were in the build to WrestleMania.
Right.
And I think I did one live appearance on Raw in the build, and it was really bizarre. I was having to draw on all of these different experiences and all of these memory, to create the energy that I needed to deliver the promo and to do that segment. And then you looking out into the crowd and seeing faces that, well, hey, there's Jen from catering, and well, there's one of our producers, and this is, it was really bizarre. And I have to give the guys credit and the girls, I have to give them a lot of credit, because performing and having matches with no one there is beyond difficult. I really, it is a true test to their professionalism, because it's not easy. I mean, it is really difficult to do. Every year when I would get ready for Mania, I would go to the PC and, with the intent of getting in the ring and getting my body used to the trauma of taking bumps and, moving around. And it took a while, man. It takes a long time, especially when you've been around as long as I have, to get in a ring and force yourself to take a bump with nobody there. Because it's going to, there's no adrenaline. It's going to hurt. And it's so they've done an amazing job, and you know, although there's still not anybody there, those screens, I mean, they've got to help some. Like, I really hadn't sit down and talked with any of the talent about any of that, but I'm sure having at least the people's faces there have got to help somewhat. But when they were doing it with nobody there,
yeah,
that's just got to be tough.
Well, it looks awkward, you know, just from a wrestling fan. It's just like something seems off here. And I can't imagine what it's like for a performer. Like, they've spent decades performing in front of bodies and people and fans. And it's like, it's a ghost town. And it's so quiet. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. You feed off of that energy too. You know, it dictates a lot of time. It dictates the pace of your match sometimes, you know, and not to have anything. It's like I said, you gotta pull up all those memories and all those different things that you've done through your career, and like, okay, this is what I should be doing right here. Although it's, you know, I hear nothing but crickets at the moment, but you know, it's bizarre. It really is.
Fantastic, sir. Thank you so much for taking time. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you guys covering us and covering, you know, my anniversary. It's really humbling, and I appreciate it. I really do.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out these other videos from USA Today Entertainment to stay up to date on all of the latest celebrity news.